You know that feeling when your phone rings and your first instinct is to let it go to voicemail? Or when someone knocks at your door and instead of answering, you freeze up hoping they'll just go away? You're not the only one. And no, you're not turning into a cranky hermit. You're simply getting older. And with age comes something people rarely talk about: a quiet, growing preference for solitude. But here's the truth. That feeling is totally normal. In fact, it might even be good for you. Think back to when you were younger. Your life was full of social interaction. At work, at school, through your children, on public transport, in the checkout line, people were constantly around. You got used to it. Maybe you even thrived on it. But as the years go by, something shifts. It's not that you don't like people. You just don't need to be around them all the time anymore. That's not selfish, antisocial, or strange. It's actually grounded in solid psychology. Here's the first reason. Your tolerance for nonsense all but disappears. When you're young, you put up with a lot of unreliable friends, petty gossip, endless small talk, family drama, and that one person who can talk about themselves for hours without ever asking about you. But over time, your patience for that kind of thing wears thin. After decades of dealing with it, something inside you just says, enough. You stop forcing laughs at bad jokes. You stop engaging in conversations that go nowhere. You walk away from people who drain your energy. That's not rudeness, it's self-care. You've learned to recognize emotional static, and you've finally given yourself permission to turn down the volume. Reason number 2, your priorities begin to shift. You start asking yourself different kinds of questions. How much energy do I really have today? Who actually makes me feel good when I talk to them? Who drains me? Who do I truly trust? You're no longer chasing approval, popularity, or a jam-packed social calendar. You're seeking peace. You want deep, genuine conversations, not surface-level small talk. You want to be around people who truly understand you, not those who merely put up with you. And if the right people aren't around, you'd rather enjoy your own company than fake a smile. That's not loneliness. That's freedom. That's clarity. Reason number 3 is more emotional, and it often catches people off guard. It's grief. As you age, you lose people. Friends drift away, loved ones pass. Some relationships simply fade. Each loss quietly chips away at your social circle, and many don't even notice it happening until one day it feels smaller. And here's the unspoken truth. Some people don't want to rebuild it. It's not because they're depressed or have given up. It's because they've come to deeply understand that time is precious. And with that realization comes a desire for fewer, more meaningful connections. It's your soul saying, I've loved deeply, I've lost deeply, and now I only have room for what truly feels safe. Then there's reason number 4, social fatigue. Not the kind that disappears after a nap, but a more profound emotional and mental tiredness. You've spent a lifetime managing personalities, smoothing over conflicts, hosting, accommodating, and juggling the needs of others. Eventually, that wears you down. Your recovery time gets longer. A 1-hour lunch with someone who dominates the conversation can drain you for the rest of the day. A noisy family gathering can feel like running a marathon with no finish line. So you stop saying yes to everything. Of course, here's a paraphrased version of your passage, keeping the tone gentle, insightful, and affirming. You start choosing rest over obligation. You guard your peace like something sacred because it truly is. Here's something that rarely gets said out loud. Older people aren't always lonely. In fact, many find deep satisfaction in solitude. But society doesn't like that version of the story. We're constantly told that happiness means surrounding yourself with people, that the more social you are, the better. But here's the twist. Real connection doesn't always come from being in a crowd. Sometimes it comes from being still with yourself, from understanding who you are without distractions, from sitting quietly, enjoying your own thoughts, listening to birdsong, flipping through a book, sipping tea while staring at the wall and not feeling the need to justify any of it. That's not isolation. That's growth. And that brings us to the fifth reason people become more selective with social time as they age: self-awareness. You finally come to truly know yourself, what irritates you, what brings you joy, what your emotional boundaries are. And with that clarity comes a natural instinct to protect yourself. You stop putting yourself in situations that clash with your nature. If small talk wears you out, you steer clear of it. If certain people stir up old pain, you gently create distance, not to punish them, but to protect your own well-being. It's a quiet kind of power, the kind that only comes with life experience. And here's the sixth and final reason for now. Time changes. When you're young, an hour can slip by unnoticed. But in your later years, that same hour feels golden. You're more aware of how precious it is, and how you spend it matters more. You begin to ask, who am I giving my time to? What am I getting back? Every coffee meetup, every phone call, every drop-in visit hit. Your capacity for emotional labor begins to change. Maybe you were always the peacemaker, the one in the family who smoothed things over, the friend who always reached out first, kept the relationships alive, made the plans. But after years, sometimes decades of being the one who holds it all together, a quiet question begins to form: who's holding me together? And if the answer is no one, something shifts. You start stepping away from that role, and not out of bitterness, but because you can no longer ignore your own needs. You begin trading people-pleasing for peace of mind. And yes, when you stop carrying others, some of them might drift away. But those who remain, they're the ones who truly matter. They're the ones who stay because they see you, not just what you do for them. We also can't ignore the role your body plays in this transformation. Physical aging changes how you engage socially. You tire more quickly. Loud, crowded spaces can feel overwhelming. Your joints ache, your back protests, and suddenly, a 2-hour dinner with a noisy group doesn't sound fun, it sounds like a challenge. That physical weariness, combined with emotional fatigue, makes quiet time feel less like an escape and more like a necessity. So you adapt. You say no to more invitations. You prefer calm afternoons over noisy late nights. You start shaping your life around what your body needs, rather than forcing your body to keep up with someone else's expectations. And then there's another layer that often goes unspoken: identity. As you age, who you are begins to shift. You're no longer in the thick of parenting young kids. You're no longer climbing a career ladder. Maybe you've retired. Maybe you've changed your pace entirely. And with those changes come shifts in your social world, too. People you used to feel close to, fellow parents, co-workers, younger relatives, may no longer move through life at the same rhythm as you. Not because anyone's done something wrong, but simply because you're in different seasons. And that's okay. You're not meant to hold on to every connection forever. In fact, it's not just your time that feels more precious, it's your energy too. And with that awareness, you begin to spend both more deliberately. Sometimes that means choosing solitude, not out of dislike for others, but out of a deeper respect for your own well-being. Here's where things can get tricky. The people around you might not get it. They might say you're more distant, less outgoing, not as fun as before. And in a way, they're right. You have changed. That's not a flaw, it's growth. You're no longer trying to be everything to everyone. You're focused on living more authentically, honoring what you really feel, saying no when you need to, and reserving your yes for moments that truly count. You didn't make it through all these years just to keep playing a role that no longer fits. This isn't about being cold, it's about being truthful. And with age, that truth becomes a kind of quiet treasure. Dig a little deeper, and you'll find it's not just about avoiding burnout or stress. It's about seeing the world and the people in it more clearly. With time, your perception sharpens. You start picking up on the things you used to miss. Fake pleasantries, one-sided connections, empty words. You don't need a big fallout to recognize when someone isn't good for you. One conversation can say everything. That kind of insight can make traditional socializing feel draining. So you simplify. You no longer explain every boundary, every decision. You stop attending out of obligation or replying out of habit. From the outside, it might seem like you're withdrawing, but inside, you finally feel at ease. And there's another layer, one that's often overlooked. The shift in emotional capacity that naturally comes with age. Many people, as they grow older, finally become the version of themselves they never had time to meet before. You've probably heard the saying, "As I get older, I care less about what people say. I just watch what they do." That's one of the gifts of aging. It teaches you to observe more and react less. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop seeking validation from people who never truly saw you. Instead, you begin choosing peace over pride, quiet over forced connection, honesty over tradition, and it feels right. Here's the unexpected beauty. When you stop needing constant company, the right people start appearing. You no longer chase connection, and yet it finds you. Conversations aren't forced, they unfold naturally. You don't plan companionship, it gently enters your life. And those who stick around, they're rare. They love the quieter, more authentic you, not the one who showed up everywhere, but the one who shows up fully where it matters. So if you found yourself retreating more, becoming quieter, more selective, don't worry. Don't second-guess yourself. Don't let the world convince you something's wrong. You're not fading, you're flowering. You're shedding what no longer serves you. You're not becoming less social, you're becoming more you. And that kind of self-alignment brings a joy that can't be faked. Maybe your weekend plans are wide open. Maybe the phone's been quiet. Maybe you spent today doing absolutely nothing, and it brought you peace. That's not loneliness. That's arrival. That's what it feels like when your life finally starts to fit. And if this message feels like it understood you better than most people have lately, then let it be the beginning, not the end, of honoring where you are now. Join the conversation and subscribe. We're creating a calm, comforting space here, made just for people like you. No noise, no pressure, just honest reflections, heartfelt stories, and the kind of peace you truly deserve.